Hi everybody, welcome one more time to ULTRAX PODCAST. We are again here with you. Today we have our special guest Niels Lawaetz, who is head of methodology and coach development at AaB Akademiet. We met each other in one conference when he was there with his colleagues to Geneca Dynamo when I was a physical coordinator, and we share some interest topics between football and physical development, and that's why I was thinking, I think it's a good way to have you, Niels, here to this discussion, and I think that we can share a lot of interesting things from your side of perspective. So, Niels, hi, one more time. Nice to have you here. Well, I don't want to say something more about yourself. Maybe it's the best way that I give this to you, that I don't miss something. So please tell us more about yourself. What is your background and what is your current role?
Thank you, Marco, and thank you for having me. First of all, I would say I was very curious when I visited Zagreb because in Denmark, Croatia is one of those countries that we look to, because it's also a somehow small country with a very, very high efficiency in the youth development, just like Denmark. So my role in Denmark now is, as you said, I'm head of methodology in AaB, it's called in Danish, and that's like the between number 5 and 6 or something like that academy in Denmark, depending how you count it. Beside that, I'm also with the national team. Has been that sometimes first with some years ago with under 17, 19, and right now I'm assistant coach at under 16. So also there I met Croatian football a few times, and I was very happy to visit you in Croatia. And when we talked, as I see it, I heard some of your interviews before this one, and I must say that you had some people who really has a full insight with a lot of the physical. For me, of course, in my role need to understand the physical, but I'm talking as a coach and a coach developer, and how can you work together with the physical part is interesting.
That's why I think that you are a perfect guest today. Because, in the previous episodes, we have some great experts in the field, mostly about the physical domain, but I always like to speak with the sport coaches and football coaches, because I think that we need to work together, and we as a physical experts, we need to understand the game, what is happening on the game, what is happening in training sessions, and if we understand that, I think that then we can plan better scenarios. Well, I have a first question for you. You mentioned that you work as a head of methodology, and can you tell us more? What does it mean to be a head of methodology in a professional club?
You're asking me to the role, like what the role is, or something?
Yeah, what is the role? Let's say, how does one day at your job look like?
First of all, I would say that as I see it, I've seen it in many different clubs in Denmark, but also outside Denmark. And I think the role is a bit different from club to club. And it can also be according to where the club is in its development. I came to this club 1.5 years ago, where AaB has a very big tradition for youth development. But when I came in the club, they had a period with a bit of a hard time, as they described it to me. So in the beginning, my job was to find out which methodology suits this club. Of course, I had some preferences. We needed to do one of them. The way we work with periodization was important for me. I can come back to that later. But in the beginning, it was very important for me to kind of get everybody working in the same direction. My job as it is now, where I feel we have the direction, in many ways we are working in the same direction now, then my job's changed a little. So now it's a bit more about coach development. It's also about making sure that the methodology is there every day, developing smaller details in the methodology. Yep. So it changes a bit over time, but for me, I think the main thing is that under 13 to under 19 to the senior team, we need to have like a pathway for the players. And this also comes into one of the things we talked about the first time we talked, Marco, where we talked about like how much should be decided from the club, how much freedom does the coach have, and this I think is very interesting and very important for a club to have like a methodology about.
That's it. And in my mind, I have one other question, but I think this is very important what you say right now, because here in Croatia, you can see that in the academies, we are changing a lot. In the coaches, we are changing a lot, even the academic directors. And, every time, also in my experience, when you change a director, some other ideas and some other goals and aspects pop up, and now imagine that every 2 years you're changing something, you're changing some ideas. And what do you think, how important it is that the club has like a 70% or 60% of the structure and everything else comes from training? Do you have some kind of solution for that?
I think it's getting clearer and clearer for me the more I'm in this business, but I think it's the same in many other businesses, that when you look at the youth academies, if I look at those academies I've seen that overachieve, there's always many differences, but all of them are very clear and they had a clear strategy over time. So for me, to have a clear strategy is important, but you also need to have it over time, and that's why it's sometimes difficult to combine with a world where people are changing a lot. I think at least in Denmark 10 years ago, a lot of the people in the clubs, they were like club people. They've been in the club for a long time. Now it's changing a lot, and that makes it even more important, I think, for the club to have some methodology that is owned by the club and not owned by the coach. So I think that's a big part of my job, is to help AaB to have like a methodology that doesn't account only on me or only on one of our coaches or something.
I totally agree with you. I think that the clubs and the academies need to have some kind of way of direction that they want to go, and then some other principles or methods can be made by the coach, or also the physical coaches or the medical staff, but some kind of a skeleton must be there. So yeah, definitely I think that is better for the player development. But let's get back to, I will have definitely some more questions about this, but let's get back to the methodology itself and the organization. You mentioned that your role is you need to track the people. Are you fulfilling the same goal? Are you heading in the same direction?
Yeah.
So how do you manage? I can expect that you are working with a large groups of people. How do you manage that large groups have the same goal and that they are going to the same direction? I don't know if you organize some kind of meetings on what kind of basis, like daily stuff, weekly stuff, monthly reports, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's many layers to this. I think there's like, when we talk about it we have a group in the leadership group in the academy. We talk about there's something that's structure and there's something that's culture. And I think where the different places I've been where we had the most success has always been when the structure, what is that called? It's a good basement. Foundation for the culture. So these two things have to be combined somehow. So if we look at the structure here, we over the last year we built up a meeting structure where we make sure we have the right meetings with the right people together at the right time. So this, of course, we can do a lot with this. One example is that I've seen in many clubs, and I think somehow also when I came to this club that sometimes the coaches and the physical coach, they don't see each other as cooperation. Sometimes I've heard coaches, not in this club, I would say, because we have they always been talking well together, but where they say that it's annoying to have the physical coach because he's always deciding how we have to train and this. And for me, this is a bit strange because, as I see it, the foundation of making a good training is that we make sure that the physical load is the right at any time, both for player development, that we need to develop them physically. It's a very important part of the game, even more important now, I think, than 10, 15 years ago.
Definitely.
And also because the better we are at this, the harder we can train. The more we can train, the more power we can put in each exercise. So even if we don't look at the physical development, it still gives the coach better, more ready players to train technical, to train tactical, to talk to them mentally about how to approach the game. Everything is better if the players are not injured, if we can train hard. So for me, this is just like it should be a cooperation at all times. And that's also one of the reasons when I think I told you last time we talked, one of the things that was interesting when we talked was also this talk about like what, when you come in a role like mine, what do you bring and what do you need to develop together with your staff? And for me, I decided when I started that I only wanted a few things, but those things that I would make sure to really put all my effort in a few areas. And it was only 3 areas I decided before I started. What I did was I talked to as many people as possible that knew the club. And after that, I decided for 3 areas. And one of them was periodization. Because I could see that the intensity in training wasn't at the level I expected from an elite academy. So this was one of the areas. Before I came to AaB, I was a coach in FC Copenhagen, where they have a very strong setup, probably the best, or at least one of the best in Denmark. So I had a lot of experience as a coach working with the physical staff. I had some very good people around me in FC Copenhagen, and in Copenhagen it was cooperation between physical staff and coaches. So this I wanted to bring to AaB, and it was somehow easy because in AaB we have physicals at the academy. We have one full time and some extras, and he's extremely competent. And when I came to the academy, the first talk I had at all was with him. Was the most important thing for me was to talk with him.
The first guy.
Yeah, before all the coaches, because if I didn't agree with him, it would be a fight.
Yeah, you need to see are you on the same direction and you need
exactly
to give your idea.
Yeah. So for me, this is just to say that this sometimes I wouldn't call it conflict, but you know what I mean, a conflict between physical training.
I know. Sometimes we can be like over pushing, you know, but that's what I wanted to. Yeah, sorry, tell it.
So I think in my role, it is very important for me to understand both the coaches. Now I say the coaches, the physical coach is also a coach, but when I say coaches, I mean like head coach, assistant coach. I have to understand their point of view, but I also have to understand on a minimal level, at least, how the physical coach is thinking, what is he's aiming for. But I think the physical coach also has to understand his role. He has to understand that we are not building a marathon runner. We are not building a sprinter.
Power athletes.
We're building a football player. So I think we need to have like the same picture of what we're aiming for.
Yeah, he was the, you mentioned like to have a meetings with the right people in the right time. So this guy was the guy for that moment. And now you mentioned that we need to understand some of physical domain. But what do you think? I think I know already your answer, but just to make it clear, what do you think the physical coaches that they definitely need to understand? football, But what do you think? Do they need to have some kind of football diploma, like from UEFA or something, that they can participate in football training? Something
What
freeze?
understand?
Yeah. Hey, can we repeat? Something can freeze. So
Yeah,
just put 28.
I'm not sure I heard the whole question.
Yeah, the question was, you mentioned like physical coaches needs to understand football. And my question was, do they need to have some kind of diploma to work in football? Like, okay, you can have physical diploma, but do you think that they need to have some kind of UEFA B or UEFA C license so they can work in football? Because now in our education system in football, I think that they will in future need to have some kind of UEFA paper so they can work in football. I know that also in Australia, if you want to work in first division, you need to have their diploma, like ACL level 2, if you want to work there. So
yeah, so you're asking me about the physical coaches?
yeah,
They should have like a diploma.
They should have like a diploma to work in football there.
I think somehow it would be too simple to just say yes to that. But that's because if I look what I really need for a physical coach, I need him to be an expert in what he's doing.
Yeah.
So it will be more. It's not important for me that he understands how can you press in different ways and all of this. But if he doesn't understand the physical needs to be able to press, then we have a problem.
Yeah.
But the tactical part is not too important as long as I would say that if I had a good talk with somebody who's very good expert in physical, we can easily give him enough information for him to do his work. But of course, I worked in FC Copenhagen. I had, I think, 2 or 3 different physical coaches. And for me, it was very nice that they played football themselves, that they had like a basic understanding of the game, because that means that when we are on the pitch, I could include them, and I felt that the longer time we had on the pitch together, the better they had the understanding of what kind of tactical demands there was, then it was easier. So to answer your question, I think it is good to have football knowledge. It's good to have a football understanding. But do you need a UEFA diploma to do that? I'm not sure. For me, it would be more important that my physical coach is curious on the game. Because I also seen people that's in every, not only in football, but that has all the right papers, but are not curious. Then I'd rather have one without the paper who is curious and intelligent.
Who wants to work, who wants to study the game, and who will ask the questions. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think partly this is on the physical coach. It's also on the head coach to want this. But I think the interesting part about my job is that the main responsibility for this cooperation to be good is on the leadership. I call part of my leadership, I call narrative. It's called like storytelling, something like leadership.
Yeah, storytelling.
Because if I'm working as a coach, you're working as a physical coach. If we are not agree on what is the story for this team, what is the story for these players, what is it that we're trying to build, if we're working on different stories, we will work in different directions. But if we agree that this is what we're aiming for, then we can start cooperating from there. So for me, this is the interesting part of my job, is to have all these experts in different areas and see if we can do something together that's even better than what each of us could do alone.
Yeah, to go again into the same direction.
Yeah, but I think the job, when we talk about my job, it's also cultural, how to do it. I think when I lived in Africa for a year before, and also visit there many times. And if I did leadership like I do in Denmark, 1-to-1 the same in Africa, it would not be successful, because it's also how is the culture, what is expected of a leader.
The culture dictates Yeah, some things.
In Denmark, everybody expect to be heard. I think we really had to discuss everything, and that's sometimes very, very good, because staff in Denmark expect ownership of everything. But it's also sometimes, if you're not careful, it can be slow, because if we need to hear all the arguments for everybody, we need to act. And I think these small details can be different in different cultures. And I think also maybe to Croatia, this will also perhaps be different in smaller details.
Yeah, the details are definitely important, especially when you're coming from, different cultures, who are changing the clubs, who are changing the states. So, yeah, definitely something that needs to be taken into account. And can you tell us more, like, concrete steps? Let's say you want to accomplish one goal, and how do you control that the goal is going into a good direction? Let's say you want that your under 13 or under 15 team is, training in 4-2-3-1, I don't know, model, that they have this kind of opening the game. And how do you control that? Okay, the coaches are using proper exercises to teach the children, to teach the players. Are they improving over the weeks? Are they decreasing in the performance? How do you control the whole process? Because now everything that we spoke about, it's like a wide story, but to accomplish some goals, I know that you need to have like really strict like guidelines or some steps to accomplish it. So how do you manage it?
Yeah, I will try to go down to be like a bit more concrete on what we're doing every day. Let's say first, if we look at again, have to look at your own club and look at what is needed right now at this time in this club. And one of the things we found out when we made our analysis in the beginning of my time here was that we had two major problems. One of them was that we were not satisfied with the technical level of the players. And the other one was that we needed more like a clear style of play, a way to do it, like an overview and like that could influence the whole club. And we decided to do like this, that in under 13, under 14, our youngest players, we really focused on the technical part. And there was another person who was in charge of these years groups the most. So he really concentrated on building up a technical platform.
Yeah. So
what I will talk about.
Yeah. Just to be sure. So you have one guy who is responsible for under 13, under 14 work. So he's not the main coach, but he's controlling what they are doing.
A bit like my role, but just only for those two teams. We call it, I think it's called the youth development coach in our license system, something like that. So he really focused on the young and to make sure, for example, when I was in Zagreb, I saw some under 10, under 11 training, something like that. Yeah. And it's very much like that, where you say you build the foundation. You really need players who can use right and left. You need all of this. So we really tried to build this up on the younger age group. And now where we are now, 1.5 years later, 2 years later, is that we can start to bring this up to the older age group as well. And we can see the quality is better now. But for my part, and this is what I wanted to focus on now here, we looked at under 15, 17, 19 is our 3 teams here. That we really need to make sure that we have a methodology for the style of play, for the tactical part, to include the physical part, all of this periodization. So of course we do technical training, but that was like step 2. So in this periodization, I come back to this question: how much should the club decide? How much should the coach decide? If we give everything for the coach, to the coach, then we have 2 major problems. One of them, how to integrate physical, mentally, all of these. If the coach decides everything, this will be difficult. The other one is that what if the coach leaves? Then we stand back with nothing in the club. So what I did was to have these good talks with the physical coach, because I think it starts with that. And we made like a framework very much inspired by the tactical by periodization by Frade. That is what we used in FC Copenhagen, but I'm not. I would be a bit afraid of saying we're doing like he says, because I think we use it in our some adjustment to our system. But inspired by this, it means that we have recovery day, we have strength day, we have endurance days. These things we have. So we made this very clear. That this is where the physical coach really helped me. How do we explain this? Luckily, it was very close to what he already worked with, so we didn't have to make a revolution. But we had to ensure that this happens actually on the field. And this is where my role was important. So what I did with the coaches also to make a framework for them, where we have to look at like a normal Tuesday. How does a training look like? How do you train tactical things within that framework? Because Tuesday, for example, normally that's +3. So that'll be small games, small-sided games, small change of direction. And which part of the tactical game can you train this day compared to endurance day, Wednesday? So my job was to, as I see it, I'm a translator. I have to translate what the physical coach says to the head coach, but I also need to go the other way around and explain to the head coach to the physical coach what the head coach. Which kind of troubles does he has on the pitch? Because we need to train this, for example. We need to train this. When can we do it? So in this, I can give you 2 small examples.
Yeah.
One of them, if you train on a strength day, that means small-sided, change of directions. It's difficult to change the whole structure of your team because we normally want small structures this day. But you can, for example, you can train how does my right winger, my right defender, and my central midfield, like they have like a triangle on the side. How can we train their
that line, like
they're part of the side of it, and that's perfect for Tuesday, because it's a problem sometimes on Wednesday, because if we do it on the big pitch, we don't get repetitions enough. So for this, the physical coach has to understand the game, but the head coach also needs to understand that he can train whatever he wants. You just have to sometimes think about if it's best to train it Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So this is like one example, I think, that all coaches working with periodization will use this mindset. Another example is that when I watched the first trainings in the club, they told me that they sometimes had a problem with coaches taking too long breaks during training, talking. And for me, this was like, I said, you said to me you're working with periodization. Because as I see it, if you work with periodization for real, the coach can't just stop anytime. He can't do that, because if I ask you as a physical coach to make me a real strong program, and you tell me you play 3 minutes in this, you have 45 seconds break. If I change that all the time, then there's no point of paying you any money if I don't use your expertise. So it was like, for me, it doesn't make sense to say that you're working periodization if the coach doesn't respect.
And if you change all the time something,
But an example on how to work on this and practice, I told the coaches, this is how we're going to do. What the physical coach promise you is that you will get very strong players who can play for a full game. He promised you a lot of things, but he can't promise you that if you don't respect his work. But the coaches want to have periods where they can just walk around, talk, and things like this. So inside, I made a framework together with under 15 coach, together with under 17 coach, like a normal week. This is the kind of drills we put on a Monday. This 15 minutes, this 20 minutes, this half an hour, this something like that. He can always change small details. If you really want to change big things, we need to have a meeting talking why, because we have to understand why. But inside this plan, I made sure that 2 times a week we put in like one day half an hour, one day 20 minutes, something like that, where I say in these areas, that's 50 minutes a week. I don't care about the physical coach. You can walk around, you can talk, you can do whatever you want as a head coach, but only do these 2 times. But I gave them 45 minutes. Because that's because the physical coach also has to understand that sometimes the head coach needs that freedom. So for me, the structure here is that we have the physical periodization as number one. This is what do we do Monday, what do we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then we have the frame down to each training. This is the kind of drills we're doing. We can make small adjustment, but for example, let's say on a Thursday, our head coach chooses to do something that's not on the plan. Afterwards, we have to look at the numbers and see how they affect the physical load.
And we need to do some kind of adjustment according to that.
Exactly. And if the physical coach says this is a problem, you can't do that, we have to look at how can we do next time to achieve both the physical and the tactical. So this also means that our physical coach, every day after training, our head coach get an evaluation, of course with the numbers, like I think they do everywhere, but he also sends a few lines and said, in this game, I see that you were a bit underachieving compared to this and this, or I'm happy right now because most of the time they're writing you on. Once again, you're great again. So that's how it should be. But I think where we are now, if even without the numbers, I think our coaches would hit it spot on most days. Because it's just like a
skeleton.
Yeah, it's just a part of the way to do the training every day. And I don't think that our coaches, if you ask them, I don't think they see it as the physical coach putting limits on them. They don't see it like that. I don't think so.
I like the way you think. I like the way you work with them. I think on that way, so you are giving them like a skeleton, and you are a glue. You are a glue or connection between the physical part and the tactical part, or the main coach. So I think on that way, it's something how I think also. And I will have one webinar online that is coming soon, but it will be on Croatian language, but it's on about physical periodization, but how you can connect these things. And I also put like, you have weekly microcycle, you have the types of days. Let's say match day plus 3 is always match day plus 3. You know what kind of exercises you can put inside. And you have like a skeleton, and each day, okay, you need to do this, that, or you don't need to, but you have some kind of guidelines, what you can perform, and you just choose what kind of exercise suits the best for that parameters. And and a question about that. So this is definitely one of the KPIs or key performance indicators for you, like periodization and qualitative and quantitative microcycles. We want to have everything structured inside. And in the physical world, let's say we already know some type of progress in one exercise. Let's say if you are doing back squats 3 times 6 on 80%, next day you will do 3 times 6 on 82%. So we know how to progress in that part. It's a little bit simpler. But let's say, how do you know when this exercise, all right, we need to do this exercise 2 weeks, then we update to next exercise, then we update to next exercise. How do you progress or do regression exercises in tactical world?
I'm not sure I understand the question right, but you're asking me on exercise level how we develop these exercises also.
Yeah. Let's say I heard one coach in the last week, and he mentioned like in this phase of a game, I have, let's say, 10 exercises, and the first 2 weeks I'm doing these 2 exercises. Next 2 weeks I'm doing these 2 exercises. Next 2 weeks, some idea.
Yeah, on an exercise level, we of course what we do is we work with macro, meso, and micro level. When we go to the meso, we have our style of play put into different days during the month. The same with technical skills and individual training, also put into a monthly schedule to make sure that we in a month aim for everything we want to aim for. But when they go down to the micro and the drills, this is the head coach. He has total freedom. I know some clubs work with what is that called? Like a library of exercises you wanna choose. And I'm quite sure that if you went to our academy and you watched under 15, 17, 19 train, if you take away like small individual things, but the team drills, I think you will find that we use 8 to 12 drills, maybe.
8 to 12 drills.
Yeah, all together. Then we work with. I told you before that I had like 3 major things when I started. One of them periodization. The other one, number 2 on this list was a constraint-led approach. That you can also find a lot about that on the internet, and it's a bit different how people use it exactly. But it is that we want to make games that is somehow game real, and also games that not only train one phase of the part of the game, but train more parts at the same time. And I think this fits very well to tactical periodization or physical periodization, because as I see it, the physical part of the tactical periodization is also to make the exercises game real. We want to have the same movements as you have in games. Of course, on a Tuesday, we overload special movements. Wednesday, we overload other movements, but we want to have it look like a game. So that fits very well with the constraint-led approach. And when we work with the constraint-led approach, very often when I sit together with coaches and we try to design a drill and how can we make this run, how can we make good, we almost always end up in the same frame. But then we have small differences. Where do we put small goals? Where do we put your cons? Where do we make a zone where they can only touch a few times, or whatever you could put on of different constraints, but always to make it look game real. So
is always
my approach is I can't tell the coach that Wednesday you have to make this drill. I can't tell him, because then I take every responsibility away from him. He has to. So the way we do it now is that we have a framework, for example, where let's say on a Wednesday we want to train endurance, we want to train big games, many what is that called? The long runs. What's the English word? High speed run. Yeah. So when we do this, we have a framework that says we have in a normal day we will train 15 minutes of what we call priming game. Mm-hmm. That means that you have some kind of tactical things we want to do, and it's kind of a warm up. But not really. But you have to have some kind of drill where we kind of prime some of the things we want to train. So let's say we want to train
preparation exercise for the main exercise.
Yeah. So let's say we want to train like our build up. We might do a possession game where they get some of the main things from the build up, like how to position themselves on the lines or something. And then we have that as a priming game. Afterwards, we go into a bigger game maybe. I think they put 20 minutes on that, where it could be like with small goals, but where we get more players involved, where we get a direction always. And then after that, we go into the big pitch, and the big pitch is then divided. So this is one of the days where I give them 20 minutes, where the physical coach can just shut up now. We have 20 minutes where if the coach decides that he wants to walk around with the player, he can do that. Very rarely they do. But at least now they can stop them 10 times, and we tell the players, now we have 15, 20 minutes. In this time, we will stop you many times to say. And then after that, when we play the big game, then they can't just stop them, because now we have to make sure that they also get the load. So this will be like a structure on the day, but which games exactly they put in with drills, it has to be the coach to decide when What theme we are training this day is also coach decision. We also have some frames on how they train different areas of the tactical part, but I think that in this podcast this is not the most important thing. But we also have a periodization on how we have to do this, but also with a lot of freedom to the coach to decide what does my team need. And I think in general, this is the important thing, that we make those people who have the best knowledge, the most experience, make the decisions. And if you look at the tactical part, I believe that the head coaches I have, we hired them because we believe they're good.
Yeah.
So they have to make the tactical things. But we also hired the physical coach because we believe they are better at physical than our head coaches. So therefore, we also need to respect their work. Yeah. So for me, the where my work is best is actually when I'm not needed. when I feel that the head coach and the physical coach, they just cooperate so well, and every time I watch, I can just see that this is high quality, and they don't need me.
They don't need you
there.
Yeah. So
yeah. Then I've done my work perfectly.
That's good. So, everything is functioning. Everybody are following the same goal. So
yeah, and then it means for me, I luckily I experienced this in the last half a year, that we're getting closer and closer to this. So that means that we can start to look at new areas. Where can we develop the next? But right now, you asked me in the beginning, what is my main role? In the beginning, I looked at a lot. I spend a lot of time on periodization and talking with physical coach, and right now I don't use a lot of time on that because it's working. So I trust my physical coach. He's strong at this. I trust my head coaches. So of course sometimes I'm still involved in some discussions about it, but in generally it's working. So now I spend more time. For example, right now, half a year ago, we started a new concept of individual training. How do we get the IDPs into? Yeah. So I spend more time with this. But an example of this is also in the beginning with the physical coach. We spend a lot of time talking about how does a normal week look like? How do we train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Now, when I talked to the physical coach last time, we had a more overview. I asked him, with your experience now, I think the basic is working. Where can we gain more from you? Where do you have something where we can gain more? And his answer was that we still have individual players who could benefit from a period where we focused more on the physical part. So now we started a concept now where we have, I think it is 2 groups of 4, but I'm one under 17, under 19. I'm not sure, but we make small groups under 17, under 19, where in part of the individual training, they are taking away from the team and get extra physical. And they're getting this. We talk to them and we say, we believe that if you would do like this in the next 3 or 4 months, we give you an extra shot of physical training.
So they are moving. Sorry, Niels. So they are moving from, let's say you have 2 hours of technical tactical session, let's say, training session. And you are taking them, let's say from one drill, you are taking them 20 minutes and they are doing their job, or they perform all technical tactical session and they stay for 20 minutes more.
Now we're back in structure because we also have the schools and all of this coordination. So sometimes we wish that we could have them a bit more. I think in general it's good. In our club it's okay compared to many other places. We can train morning 2 times a week and so, but time is a limit sometimes. But what we do right now is that 3 times a week we have a special part of the training that is focused on IDP and individual development, and we can decide in these 3 areas to 1 or 2 times to take them away from the group and do physical training. But the mindset in this for me is that if we really mean it with individual development plans, if we really mean that our aim is to make the best possible footballer, then we have to look at each player individually. And if we look at him we say we have only 45 minutes. We can choose to train technical. We can choose to learn him something tactical. We can choose to learn him something on his mentality, or we can choose to train him physically. In the perfect world, we will always make the decision looking 360 degrees around each players and try to see where do we get the most effect per minute. And we can't do that perfectly in any academy, not even in Bayern Munich or any place where they have lots of money, but we can try. So what we do now is that we tried. Right now we are just started a new structure where 3 times a year we have like a squad evaluation where we go through all players. So for each age group, and everybody in the academy who has something to say about this player is invited. Physical coach has to be there, head coach has to be there, some of them have to be there, other ones are invited if they have something to bring to the table. And then we talk about this group of players, and if there's some of them where we believe it would benefit them to be removed from the training 25 minutes 2 times a week for 4 minutes per month,
for them, for the future,
then we do it. But of course, if we could do it, why not do it as an extra training? 2 things. One of them is and school and all of this. That's a puzzle. But also our physical coach says that some of the things where he wants to go work hard with them, we need to make sure that we don't overload them in periods. But for example, some of these players, we know and we tell them, and the physical coach is talking to them, head coach is talking to them, and tell them, we know that if we do this in the next 3 months, you probably feel that you are losing something on field right now, because also when you're tired in these extra trainings, you will sometimes lose some of your speed for a period. Something like that.
They need to understand why they are in these programs and what is going to happen.
Yeah, but so an example of this could be under 17 is 2 age groups together. Some of those who come up as first year, we know it's a bit hard for them to be part of the team. They have to struggle to be part of the first team. So this period is a good period. They will probably do. Yeah, so in this period under 16, we can put on some extra physical, and we did it with a group last year. Now 2 of them are main fixture players in our under 17 team, and I think they came out stronger. So I think by doing this mindset that we always see how can we benefit from head coach, from physical coach, I see now that the head coach, they see this. They see that when we give this to the physical coach, he take our players a bit away for 3 months, but afterwards I get a better player. So even the head coach, they like it. They want good players, all of them, because of course it's development. But all coaches I've ever met, they want to have a strong team and they want to win games.
That's the most important part. Well, in one segment. Yeah, but unlike this, you are definitely controlling the process. You mentioned that you're organizing the meetings for the whole club members. You are speaking about the players 3 times a year. You are having individual development programs 3 times a week. This is definitely the way how everybody can specifically focus on working on weaknesses or even strengths of the player, the team. Like that, I think that you can track the progress and you can definitely improve something. Yeah, I like the approach, definitely. And one like a small question, but how long one training session lasts in your academy? Let's say for under 16 or under 19. It's like 2 hours, 1 hour 30 minutes.
It also depends a bit if you're asking me what is the perfect world or how is it in reality.
Reality.
Because reality, we have to think on school on this as well. So what we do right now is that there can be small changes, but normally Monday we train 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
This recovery day, that means that we can train a little bit longer sometimes, but then it will be more individually. So between 1 hour and 15 and 1.5 hours. Monday is a good day because it's afternoon, so we don't have a very strict limit. But when we go on the winter training and have to play an artificial, then we have to be away from the pitch for the next team to come. Yeah. So then it's a bit shorter, but always 1 hour and 15 at least. Tuesday morning training. They have
a double session.
No, always one session a day.
One session a day. Yeah.
Yeah. This is strength training, so we are in a small-sided game. We normally train 75 minutes, 1 hour and 15. But this is one of our two really load days. This is the day where, when we end the training, I hope the players say we can't train anymore now. We're too tired. So it's not always like that, but that's the world. I think right now they train 1 hour and 20 minutes. That's how much we can kind of get out of it. But if I could choose here, I would train at least 1.5 hours like that. It's this Wednesday we train afternoon, 1.5 hour endurance training.
Mm-hmm.
A big part of this should be 11 against 11, or at least as big as possible on any given day.
Yeah.
Thursday is our speed day. That's a special load day because the speed training in the physical part, you can actually do that in 15 minutes. So
together, yeah.
So this also gives the coach, we call it like a medium low day. The rest of the training we normally play medium-sized games, but that's a day where you can actually choose a bit more as a coach, as long as you make sure they do that. Yeah. Normally this is also the part of the training where the physical part is most away from the game. We can choose to make just like speed running, but normally it's against the ball or something like that, but it's somehow far away from the game just to get the amount of speed, of sprints. But at Thursday it's a morning train, so that's also about 1 hour and 20 minutes.
1 hour 20 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, and then in the afternoon, Friday, that's the day before game, so we also have to be a bit aware of that. So normally it's also like 1 hour and 15. I think if I could choose and I didn't have to look at the school and all of this, we would make a few of the trainings a bit longer. We also looked on if we can train extra. We do that with some of our transition players. So we try to give them an extra training, but it's difficult with the school. And we also have to look at that if the players are going for morning training, then go back to the school, we have some transport, and then they go back to the club in the afternoon. And also our area, we have some of the players has a long
traveling area.
Then we might win small things on the technical and tactical, but we might lose the same because they're tired and
because they're tired. Yeah, everything. So
it's always a balance. Then. But I think you asked me also before this, do we work with KPIs? And we do somehow, but it's not. I think KPIs are very good to have in your suitcase or in your bag to take up. Sometimes look at them. The problem is sometimes for me is if you use the KPI just something in front of you, like a shelf. It's called that. So you don't
understand. You don't see everything what is happening.
Yeah, but for example, when our physical coach, he gives feedback, that's all KPIs, because he's saying how much do we train on a Thursday compared to what we wanted to. He also do this half a year saying how is the development every time we test the players. This is also KPI, how far did we go compared to. But we sometimes when people are using KPIs, they say this is what we are aiming for. But I think if we go to our training, to everything, and say we want to do it as good as possible, then we sometimes would do it better than the KPI. So as long as we have this feeling that we're doing everything as good as possible, then the KPIs is more like a checklist. Is there some places where we don't achieve what we expected?
Like a reminder.
As a minimum. Yeah. So we have some KPIs. We also have it according to style of play, but we don't put a number on it. We say we wanna look like this, and then we can look at some of the numbers, like how many entrants in the last third, and all of these numbers that you can get from Y-Scout and so. We also we have in our style of play that we rather have the ball than not have the ball, and it sounds somehow easy. But for example, a club like Leipzig, they not always want to have the ball. At least not 5-10 years ago. They just they had another style of play. But so of course it will be good for us to have the ball this and this percent. But on the other hand, if we only have it down our own third, so then we need to, how much do we have the ball in the right positions? How many go? So we can have small KPIs, but it shouldn't be something we are aiming for all the time. It's more like a checklist for me that we're going the right direction.
Yeah, the checklist. Just see, like you mentioned, are we heading in the right direction? Are we doing the proper things? But we want to. Yeah, you are sure if you know that all of the people are doing their job, the players are safe, the players are improving, you know that we are going into the good direction. So the KPIs are just here for, the checklist, as you said. No,
and I think KPIs something.
Yeah.
In your area, it's sometimes also easier because the special part of the physical is that there are many numbers.
There are many numbers. It's mostly about, let's achieve that, let's achieve that. But I also like to say like this: if they are not getting injured, if they are improving, and they have solid numbers in the games, you know that they are doing well, it doesn't mean I need to accomplish 1.8 body weight in squats, because this is the norm or this is the KPIs or something like that. But if they are performing well and they are safe, so maybe I need to achieve that KPI or something like that. So definitely there are some things that needed to be looked at, like perspective and these kind of things. I believe in that. Let me get back to microcycle. And I think we are coming to one or two more questions, and we are going pretty well because this is for me quite interesting. I can bother you like all day with the questions, how are you doing this, how are you doing that, why are you doing like this. I'm always interested in these kind of topics, but we don't have so much time. I know that you have your responsibilities and you need to go to work and to the pitch, But when you mentioned the days like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you mentioned Wednesday, you feel like you're doing training 11 against 11. Do you combine this work with some kind of, I don't know, do you use some type of runnings, or how do you combine? You said that you are a glue between physical and tactical work. So how do you combine?
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because we have, as I see it now, sometimes when I talk about the physical, I think compared with you, I'm getting very like an overview. I'm not in details like you are in this world. So for me, the days where we, as a coach, need to be aware of the load is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Oh, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, that means strength, endurance, and speed. Monday and Friday, activation and recovery is somehow easy because you more have to be aware not to do too much actually. So it's not difficult to get the numbers. So to make you happy, it's not difficult Monday. It's more difficult Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. If you look at the thing we are aiming for these 3 days is always to do all the needed load in football relevant drills. This is also always what we are aiming for. What we do right now is that Tuesdays, that means strength training. Yeah. We found a good concept now, where in the beginning it was a bit difficult for us to get enough load, but I found out that the coaches very often only had like a period of the training where they're actually thinking about small areas. But when we start to through the whole training and thinking of this load, then it's no problem. So most days we really spot on, but that also means that we have maybe the first game that is kind of a priming. We have to be a little bit aware of the load, but as soon as that finished, we can put the right load into the rest of the drills. Even when we go to games, in the end, it's some kind of 3 against 3, something like that, 4 against 4 with the max, something like that. So Tuesday is normally not a problem. Wednesday, we have top up running. Do we call it that?
Yeah, top up
like
runs.
extra running
Yeah.
sometimes, and I will return to that because we have a project about that right now. And Thursday, we tried sometimes to put it into real like games, 4 against 4. It's difficult. They don't get long enough sprints. So what most of the teams do most of the time now is that we have 10 minutes, 15 minutes during training where we have some kind of drill where we make it a bit less complex and have like a running situation for the ball. And normally there is a goal somewhere. So it is somehow close to game, but it is a bit away from context. So this is like a part, like a little bit between the coach and the physical coach. But that's only, as it's only 10 minutes, it's not too important for me. But Wednesday, we had this problem getting enough high-speed running. So right now, for example, with my under 15 coach, we discussed it, and I said for under 15, I believe that it's possible in game to have enough high-speed running if we design our drills right. So we decided for the next 3 Wednesday, I will go a bit closer. We will talk about the drills. We'll try to design drills in another way, and then we will evaluate together with the physical, with the feedback from the physical coach, to see if we can make all the running inside drills. If it's not possible, then we do top up. But I think that for at least for under 15, it should be possible to put everything inside. So we are using the top up run, say if it's needed. But on the other hand, I think it's part of my job to try to see if we can put everything into a football relevant context. But then, of course, we also have days where like 3 players need a top up run or something like that we use it. So we're also pragmatic when it's
training session or something like that for the players to like less minutes or something.
Exactly. All of these, I think that's very typical for all clubs.
Yeah,
use that.
That's it.
But I think, as in general, the reason why we want high-speed running is because it is part of the game. And if it's part of the game, we should be able to. If it is part of the game, we should be able to train it in a game.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense that you say this is part of the game and we can't train it. We have to run between 2 cones. It doesn't make sense. But we might have to put a lot of rules on this game. We have to make sure that the running is intense, and we have to put it down. And we want to run more than we do in a game. So we have to make the constraint-led approach to make constraints that provoke this to
become that will lead to high speed. Let's say running distance collection.
I have this when I talk to my physical coach, it seems like the way of thinking we're using on the pitch is very close to what he's doing off pitch in the strength room, when he also wants to like overachieve different things. He put constraint on each drills. This you know more about it than me. I do, but you also try to overload different muscles in different situations to get like tiredness, and then they recover on a higher level, and this we should be able to do on pitch as well.
Yeah, and as a physical coach, also, let's say if you are doing endurance training session or training day, you know what type of drills you will have on that day, and you as a physical coach then know, right, we are having 5 speed runs or maybe some sprint distances, what we need to prepare for that. Okay, we need to prepare some hamstrings muscles, we need to activate the glutes, we need to prepare the foot, something like that. So in the warm-up, we will have maybe more exercise like that to prepare them for the main part of the training session, for the priming exercise, and then you're coming to the main part. So I like what you mentioned, the thing like, if we can collect like 5 speed running in a game, why we cannot collect it in a drill? We just need to program the drill so that we can collect everything what we want. And I like, and if I like it, and if the coaches are following it and listen to this kind of approach, then you're a lucky guy, because this is sometimes pretty hard to accomplish. You know, that someone wants to change the drill just to accomplish something. You know, this is sometimes problem here in Croatia. Coaches usually have some bucket of drills, let's say 10 drills, and they are doing the drills like that. You know, sometimes it's hard to change this periodization exercise, you know, because of the goal of the day, because he sees like that, or he used to work like that. I very often hear that, well, I'm doing like that, you know, from some of the coaches. I'm working like that for the last 10 years, you know. I don't want to change. Yeah, I told you, yeah, good, okay, I know it's a good exercise, but maybe we can, I don't know, increase the distance or something.
But I also think the example you give here, it's also who's in charge. Is it because somehow the head coach is in charge of his team, but you're in charge of the physical training in the club. So who's actually in charge when we're talking about if we're not clear as a club, what
are the responsibilities in the club, and who is I conclude that in your organization everybody are familiar with obligations, and everybody are familiar with the way how you want to function. I think this is very important, especially at the start of some kind of collaboration or some project. You know, if you sit down with the people, explain them what you want to accomplish. These are the missions, these are the KPIs, this is the way how we want to function according to the physical way, tactical way, then everybody knows what are their responsibilities and it not work. You know, sometimes here we can see the things like, now we are the stuff, and we just go work. You know, work, and we will see what's gonna happen. Yeah, it's not problem until the first situation pops up like this. And now what we need to do in this situation, if we don't have the strict rules or some guideline, it's pretty hard to make a conclusion. Are we collecting this, or are we collecting that? Are we producing players? Are we chasing the result? How do we control? Are we improving? You know, these are the typical problems that you can see here in Croatia.
Yeah, but I think this is, I think in the beginning of our talk, I mentioned that it's between structure and culture.
Structure and culture, yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at the structure, is that what can we do to make sure that these problems don't occur? We can, of course, make sure that we have meetings where a physical coach is there together with the head coach, together with the leadership. So at least we have, like, in these meetings, we agree on the framework. As I told you in the beginning, I had to be very close to this process. Now I don't need to do it, but in the beginning,
because you've done it at the beginning,
yeah, because we have to decide what story are we going with. What's the story here? If we agree on the story, it's easier. But I think when you look at the culture, what you explained to me is also culture where we talk more than we listen. Because I think the physical coach really needs to understand what is the aim for the head coach. Because also, let's say the example before, I tell the head coach that I'm a physical coach. I tell, now we take out these 2 players that are some of your best players. We take them out for a period of your training to give them extra physical. And at the same time, I'm also telling you that in this period they will play worse than they did before, because right now I'm doing them a bit more tired. And then afterwards, if the head coach is fired because of his results,
yeah,
then he's not happy with his physical coach.
That's it.
So if the leadership is want to make player development, they can't judge the coaches on the results.
Yeah, you need to know. This guy is tired because of that. You cannot fire him because he lose some points.
No, because we did everything right in player development, but we knew that it cost us some percentage of the game in the weekend. So all of this, I'm not saying that this is right and this is wrong, but you have to decide what you're doing and what you're aiming for. And I think for me in my club right now, it is one of the strengths we have right now is that we are aligned on what we want. So no matter if you ask a second assistant coach and under 15, or you ask the physical coach, I think they're somehow aligned on what we're aiming for, and we want to win games, but we also want to develop players, and this balance between this, I think we are quite aligned. And that helps you in your everyday work.
Yeah, definitely one of the most important things for me, that you have like a direction for the whole structure and the leadership, that they are following the coach, and that the coach knows why this is happening, that you are doing this work because this is the idea of the club and the structure. So definitely great stuff. Well, you answered on the all questions I prepared for you. Well, as you can expect, I pop out some others because this was interesting, and I think that our listeners will definitely hear something interesting in this conversation, because we touched on a lot of things like the importance of communication, leadership, goal achieving, strength-led approach into the learning, periodization, then how to combine periodization in physical and tactical domains. So for me, definitely was a great talk, and I write like 1.5 page here during our conversation about some top things like responding exercise in this 20 minutes period without the physical coach. I like this part very much. Now you can do whatever you want. This is something cool and new for me. So I think that you're doing an amazing job there. Keep going like that, and I hope that you will be with us one more time. Let's say in some part 2 of the podcast episode. So Niels, thank you for your time. Thank you for your speech, and good luck in the future.
Yes, and also thank you for this time, and also for our visit in Zagreb. After visiting Zagreb last time, we had the chance to talk about our visit in Zagreb, both with all the people in my role in Denmark, different clubs. We're working closely together. So we shared many of the experience we had from Zagreb with those also, and even my coaches here in Aalborg. We also had it in our academy meeting, telling about good and bad from what we saw in Zagreb.
Perfect.
I was very. I would say we saw many good things in Zagreb, but especially when I watched the under-10 training. What a level on the players. There must be a lot of good football for children in Croatia when so many good players can be around. So I think you will have success many years from now.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. We are going into the good direction. We just need to continue like that, and also to follow ideas like we talked today.